The theme I chose for my project was In the Great Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald develops the theme that the wealthy are only concerned with themselves despite the friendly and caring facade they put forward. So I'll start out with some evidence to prove the facade aspect of the theme. And this is early in the book when you first meet Daisy and Nick is describing her and how charming she is and how wonderful it is to be around her. The next bit is also early. It's like right after the very first part of chapter 3, where Nick talks about Gatsby's parties for the first time, like in detail, and talks about how huge they are and how many people come and the kind of stuff that they do there, which shows like the crazy stuff that these people do and how sociable that they are or pretend to be, and how involved they are with Gatsby's life, which they later prove to not be at all. This next piece is the day after, or like when on their wedding day, Tom and Daisy, where she, like the night before, she freaks out and she's like, I don't want to get married to him. And this and all the rest of the evidence that I give is going to be about proving how the facade is fake, like how it is a facade and how they don't really care about anybody but themselves. And this one proves that because she knows Tom, he has money, he's a safety, and she goes with him instead of being with Gatsby, because Gatsby doesn't have the kind of money that Tom does, and yeah. My next piece of evidence is where Nick talks about how Tom and Daisy are careless because they destroy everything. And that, again, just talks about how they pretend like they care about something, more specifically Daisy, and then they really don't show up in the end. The evidence I have after that is when Nick calls Daisy's house to say, hey, Gatsby's dead, but she doesn't show up, and he finds out that her and Tom have left. The next piece I have after that is when Tom goes to comfort Mr. Wilson after Myrtle's run over, but I use this because he doesn't actually comfort him. He just says, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, so he's just trying to protect himself by going over and talking to Mr. Wilson. Also, I stopped saying page numbers because I realized that the online copy that I'm using now, the page numbers don't match up with that book that we have, so they're going to be a little different, but you guys know these parts of the books, so. This next piece is when Nick sees Tom again after all this stuff goes down, kind of in the wild, and Tom gives him this whole reason why he told Mr. Wilson about Gatsby, and how he's justifying what he did and saying, it's not my fault, like, what else was I supposed to do? He would have killed me, and how Gatsby deserved it. And that's, again, he's just saying, like, enough to kill me. All he's thinking about is himself. He's not thinking about anybody else. The next piece I use is Gatsby's funeral in general. I did this because nobody shows up for him, even though there's all these people coming to his parties, all these people who say they're friends with him. Nobody shows up except for his dad, Nick, and then they say the minister, and the man with the owl-eyed glasses. Also, I use this piece of evidence because Nick tells Gatsby that he's the only one of them who's good, which means, Nick knows that everyone's like putting on this facade and isn't really being true about who they are. So all the evidence I have plays into the mask that I made. So the mask obviously represents the facade because, they put on a mask. Pretty straightforward. I decorated it with these things here and these colors because each color represents one of the 7 deadly sins. Green is envy, light blue is sloth, yellow is greed, dark blue is lust, and then orange is gluttony, purple is pride, and red is wrath. I did a lot less red because there's not a lot of wrath. I still put it on though because Tom is mean. And I did the pearls because it's kind of like pearls that represent wealth, you know, and that's like a big part of the mask that they put forward, and pearls are mentioned specifically in the book. And the back is another load of stuff. So, the sponges represent people, you know, and sponges absorb water, obviously, and I think that's kind of like represents the greed of the characters. So, and you know, they kind of like absorb and take and take and take. That's just the way I've thought of it. And yellow is the color of greed, so there's that. And each of these little things is like a symbol of wealth, you know, like beauty, purses, shoes, comb, you know. Yeah. So that's my sculpture.